are in the program or not in the program. And I'm referring to the state of Florida program for homeless veterans or veterans that have gotten themselves into trouble. I just wanted to real quickly, I'm going to go off and read this directly off their website so that there's no confusion. Because the way that the Veterans Court used to work when we started it, I believe it was like 2005, 2006, was that whenever a veteran got in trouble, that is, if it was associated with mental health or if it was associated with drug addiction, what the courts would do instead of holding a veteran in a situation where he's got no mental health counseling, no help whatsoever, and they just put his ass in jail and gives him a record. And these are guys that are young guys that are 18 to 25 years old, that once they get out of the military, they go back home, and if they have something wrong with them, there's quite a bit of family conflict and things like that. So what ends up happening? Well, if it's a mental ill veteran or it's a guy who has PTSD gone untreated, then he's going to have some emotional problems that will eventually lead to alcohol and then eventually to drugs. And so you guys know that a lot of veterans that come back from the war are shattered messes of men, and the military just wants to get rid of them, and the VA just wants to in-process them and get them on therapy and get them going. Problem is that a lot of these veterans that are homeless live really, really far from the VA hospital. And a lot of times they don't even have money for a bus to go to the VA hospital to get checked in, to get themselves checked out, which is really, really dangerous when you got somebody who needs, attention immediately. Because what happens is that they usually call, if they get the cops called on them because they're wandering around outside, and, veterans are scary to look at when they're homeless, because these are dudes that went through a great deal of war, especially if they're war veterans, but just the suffering that we go through and the mental anguish of coming back to nobody. That's what happens to a lot of veterans, is they come back to the United States to nobody. And so this was a strange conversation I had yesterday, because someone assumed that this was some kind of a predatory program, which I have no connections at all to the Veterans Court anymore. All I did was institute it with Roy Foster. Roy Foster was CNN's Hero of the Year for his work with homeless veterans. I'm going to put the link in because it was like 2010 when it happened. But Roy won, he spoke before the world. And I was so honored just to be in his presence for the time I was able to be there. Because Roy used to go out to the woods and get homeless veterans out of the woods, bring them to his halfway house for men, help them, get soap and shower and food for the first time in who knows how long. But the only stipulation was they couldn't drink. And alcoholics that drink don't do well. So when you got a home, like I said, Roy Foster started the Stand Down House, which was designed specifically for homeless veterans who had just returned from war. If they had just out-processed and just de-rose back to the States, and they don't have family members or people to fall back on, a lot of times they'll end up just lost and they fall between the cracks. So the court we started this. Now, I didn't start this. Roy started this. Roy's a great dude. So Roy started the Stand Down House, and I think the name, I can't remember. But anyway, the Army was involved specifically as far as the specific veterans that came back. And there were a few Army, like old-timer salts, that were taking all these guys in and helping them get their VA benefits, their medical benefits, and so on, which is really important. That if you're a veteran and you have an honorable discharge, you can just go to the VA hospital with your DD-214, show them your whatever ID you have, get an ID. You're going to need to get an ID anyway to go to the VA hospital if you need to. But I want to read this to you because this is the newest update from the Veterans Court of Florida, which is not what I had intended when I got involved initially, because the whole point of having a mentor as opposed to having jail or something that's just going to ruin a guy even further. See, I don't see the point in putting a person in jail when they got a substance abuse problem, especially when there are cures now, medical cures to addiction. And there's medicines that the VA can give you that'll make you not want to drink, not want to smoke cigarettes. Maybe you're on something like opiates or whatever. Listen, they're not going to give you that old remedy that just makes you addicted to something else. And I'm going to go into Suboxone and all that stuff. But in reality is that a veteran needs therapy so that he can adjust to civilian life, which is really hard to do. Because when you go from, being a super soldier or whatever, and you're stationed overseas for however long, then you get deployed in your TDY, and you've gone through all these trainings, and then after you're done with your military service, you get your honorable discharge. And what happens is that a lot of veterans fall between the cracks, which is why I felt it was justified to go before the state of Florida and say, look, I was a homeless veteran once too. And the VA helped me. It was a guy named Gordon Broom. And Gordon Broom would say the shit to me that no one would tell me the truth. No one would tell me, why do you keep getting in trouble? Why do you keep drinking? And then he said the most genius thing to me. He says, well, if you stop drinking, well, you'll stop getting in trouble. Which resonated with me because I had wanted to stop drinking, but I didn't know how, because I was basically a daily drinker from the time I got up in the morning until I passed out at night. Every single day. And every single night, for some reason, I would leave my fucking body and go out to bars and get in fistfights. And eventually the police got fucking tired of my ass. So instead of getting roped into and roped off, basically sent off to a county jail, and then they assign you to the drug court or whatever because you were drunk in public or whatever. Because the only thing I've done in my drinking career was get drunk as shit and get in fights. This is what we did. So when Royce started this program, and this was so great because it was a good time for me. I was just starting to recover from that seemingly hopeless state of mind and body, because I've gone from being completely homeless to the far extreme. And it's not because I lacked ambition. Most of the people lack ambition. So whenever they see veterans that have recovered from the seemingly hopeless state of mind and body, it's very, very easy to criticize them for being alcoholics. And that's the problem, is that most families, even if you got sober 1 year, 2 years, 6 months, 30 days, they don't give a fuck, okay? They have not been in your shoes overseas. They don't know what it's like to be in the military. And then to get out of the military after you served your country, and then to return home, where you might be scrambled mess, or you might be an alcoholic or whatever, and to get no support whatsoever because people cannot understand you. Then you go to the VA hospital, what they're going to do is put you in a program of some kind. They're going to give you a referral. And that's how these work, because basically men's halfway houses dot the whole area of Florida, and to the south specifically, because there's this cycle of drugs, drug addicts, rehabs, halfway houses, and the cycle just perpetuates itself over and over again. And you'll go to AA meetings, for example, and you'll meet 10 people, and those 10 people, maybe one of them will stay sober for any period of time. So this is why it's important for other veterans to get involved into the veterans courts that are now established in almost 50 states. And I was honored to be a part of this. I didn't deserve this, but I was an example to the judges in the state of Florida of what could possibly happen when you take a guy, and you guys saw the pictures of me. I was like shriveled up, skinny, black circles under my eyes. Not like I do now, but and have been beaten like a piñata by the fucking police. So yeah, I had every reason in the world to escape that world, just to get out of that world. But I needed to be around other veterans to help me change my mindset, because you can't go back. You're not going to get in uniform again. You know what I mean? You're going to go, and the best way to recover from this shit is to help other people. That's the only thing that's worked for me. Money doesn't help. Money's convenient. Money's a tool. But that's not the first focus in life. You see, if you lack ambition, you're going to go to money first. You're not going to work on your mind. You're not going to work on your body. You're not going to work on your spirit. And that's the error that veterans make when they come back to the U.S., is that they believe that they're going to come back and be heralded as a fucking hero, and they're going to have, you know, the Macy's Day Parade waiting for us when we come back from war. Well, that's not how shit goes, because you come back from war, no one cares, because no one has seen you. So they don't see you, so they assume that you haven't done anything. And that's the thing. It's like disconnection when you leave at home at 18 years old and you go off to the military and you come back at 4 years or 8 years or 12 years or 20 years later, is that people in their minds, your memory, the memory of you is frozen in their minds about the way you used to be. So if you were a degenerate gambler, or if you were a womanizer, or whatever came along with alcoholism, that has become your new label. And unfortunately, when a person is sick and has alcoholism or has mental illness or has any kind of a traumatic situation and it affects their behavior, people are going to judge you, period. So what I suggested that we do is, instead of allowing cops to book veterans, is that we immediately from arrival to, let's say, an arrest situation, you see what happens is once you get to like the county jail, after you've been arrested for being drunk in public, is that you go before a magistrate or whatever, and then they decide what to do with you before you go to court. Because a lot of times if you get arrested in the middle of the night, you have to spend the night in jail, and the following morning, then you either get bonded out or you go to the court. And what happens with veterans in this moment is, instead of going to that magistrate, you go to a representative of the Veterans Administration. And the Veterans Administration then passes down a recommendation for, let's say, 30 days in rehabilitation. And if most homeless veterans are insolvent, so they don't have any money. And it's up to veterans like ourselves who have recovered from this to represent these veterans in the court and say, look, Your Honor, I was where he was. I have been sober for X amount of years, and I believe that we can help this guy. And what we do at that point is we initiate, obviously we have contact with our sponsor or whatever, your veteran that you're going to work with, or you get somebody that's going to work with you, and you set up a plan. That is to go to meetings, AA meetings, and go to your VA appointments. You see, the problem with a lot of veterans that live in homeless shelters is they don't have transportation to go to the VA hospital. So if they get transport and they get to the VA, they can get, like I said, their identification, because a lot of these guys don't have anything. They have literally nothing. We go out to the woods, and these guys have a garbage bag, with some clothes in it, the leftovers from the legacy, I guess. Torn up jeans, the bottom of their shoes are falling off. I'm not even joking you, because the way that veterans that are alcoholic or drug addicts view homelessness is this more like camping, and they don't feel uncomfortable doing it. Now, you and I would say, well, that's not normal. This is true. It's not normal. But there is a solution to this, because as opposed to putting a veteran in jail for being drunk in public and, ruining his life for 6, 8, 10 months and, locking him up in the county for some stupid shit, is that we give the veteran an opportunity to start his fucking life over. And he doesn't have to ruin it in his record, because once this happens, all that time you spent in the military, all the experience you had, and all that education that you got, you can wipe your ass with it once you've been arrested in the United States. Why? Because that record, whether you have been convicted of it or not, the arrest record is going to go with you. Potential employers, especially if you wanted to get on the federal level or if you wanted to become something, they don't want you, even if it's a misdemeanor, because you're an unstable person because of your addiction to alcohol or drugs. However, when you work with the Veterans Court, if you put yourself in the Veterans Court as opposed to putting yourself into the county jail, your chances are better than average than the normal civilian who just goes to a fucking $30,000 a month rehab and doesn't take it seriously. So why I decided to get involved with this, besides the fact that I was homeless when I, is that there is a solution to this. I'm not. There's a solution to alcoholism, And I know it sucks to be hooked on booze because you go every single day and you say, I don't want this. And then you drink it anyway. I know that feeling. It's a deep, painful, anxious feeling until you get that first drink. But the problem is that first drink doesn't really do it. That first drink might calm you down for a second, but if one is too many, then 1,000 is never enough for an alcoholic. And like I said, alcoholics that drink don't do well. They make mistakes in life. They get involved in activities and so on that military members don't do. But when they get out of the military, they haven't smoked weed for 4 years or 2 years or however long they were in, and they get involved with the wrong crowds because they've been deprived of their habits or whatever that they see other civilians doing. And they're not allowed to do it because you're in the military, you can't do drugs. And the military frowns on when you do drugs. So they wait until they get out of the military and they go back home and they crash and fucking burn. And that's why they end up in the hospital. Now, the thing that happened to me, and this is long before I got out of the military, is that I went on leave to Florida to go visit. My grandmother was living in Florida, and it was right before she passed away. So I went to go see her, and instead of spending the time with my grandmother, I was on leave for, I think it was 10 days, whatever. I was stationed in Germany. I fly back home, and I say, hey, Grandma, I'm going to go out, which was stupid because, what am I going to do? I go out with a friend, and for 3 fucking days, and you know how that goes. It always ends up, returning home with regrets. I was staying with my grandmother. She's like looking at me with the same clothes on I left on Thursday. And here it is Monday. And I looked like I crawled out of some sewer. And in those 3 days, I had been arrested 3 times in one day, drunk in public. And what they do there is they'll write you a ticket, so you got to go to court. And so I went to a bar, middle of the day. Now, guys, remember, this is a long time. I've been sober 22 years now, so I was in my 20s at the time. So in the middle of the day, I go to some bar, and the bartender sees I'm just totally shot out. And I go up to the bar, and I'm like, hey, give me a beer or something like that. So as I'm walking into the bar, the cop walks behind me, and he's like, goes to the bar, and he goes, do not serve him. And I was like, what's going on here? So I left the bar, I wait for the cops to leave, and I come back. The bartender calls that same cop back. He comes back a second time. He's like, what are you doing, man? I'm going to have to arrest you. And I was like, I just wanted to use a phone. You know what I mean? Drunken stupidity. And so I leave. The cop leaves. I come back a third time. This time he goes, I'm taking you to jail. So instead of being a rational person and saying, oh, look, I'm sorry, and getting on with your life. No, I decided to be combative. So that's what drinking was like for me. And I was on leave. Okay. So needless to say, I don't think my first sergeant liked it too much, having been called in the middle of the night. We're in the middle of the night, probably 3 a.m. by the time I was booked, and having to talk to my first sergeant, who is in Germany, about this jackass that we picked up off the fucking street, who was drunk in public and was harassing a bartender and was facing a misdemeanor drunk in public charge. So obviously I'm facing a lot of fucking trouble. And for some reason, somehow, some way, I managed to evade being locked up over and over and over again for being drunk in public. Now, I've been in so many countries now that I reflect back and I think about what a waste of money. How much money did I waste drinking and doing bad stuff and breaking cars and crashing stuff and ruining relationships. So the policy changes to the VA have now deeply involved the government. They've changed their policies. Used to be that there was no connection whatsoever to the system. It was a divided system where VA, which still does, and the county or whatever county you're in, that if a veteran gets arrested, they have the first option to go to veterans court as opposed to the municipality court. In this case, Municipality court just puts you in jail, puts you on probation for whatever your time is or whatever. The alternative is when you go to veterans court, those charges are not dropped, but they're basically suspended. If there's not an arrest, that's recorded. That's the best part. If a veteran gets arrested for doing something stupid that involves drugs or drinking or mental illness, as opposed to putting their asses in jail, you put them into veterans court and you get a mentor for them. Once they have a mentor, we take these guys to meetings, we get them on their feet. If there's a halfway house that's run by veterans, for veterans, then that's the one we choose. And like I said, any part of the country now, because the veterans courts that we started was in Florida, was the first one in 2010. Following that, California opened one, Texas, I believe, opened one, and then it was slowly but surely almost every state in the union. Now, what's been the result is that after guys go through veterans court and they stay in a men's halfway house and they've proven to themselves, because they don't play around. Okay, not a normal halfway house for guys. It's like, drunk tank type of people, bunch of losers. But when you get around veterans, once they're sober, they suddenly act like they're in the military again. So they make their bed and they shine their shoes and they're trying to be on time and things like that. And after a period of 6, 8, 9, 10 months or a year, depending upon however long the veterans court decides that you need to be there, because that's how it is. It's dictation. And when it gets handed down, you walk away without any records. So you have no police record. You have no arrest records. It is not a felony. It is not whatever the hell it is, whatever the charge is, it doesn't show up as an arrest. So you do not have the risk of going to apply for a job, federal job or whatever, and having this show up and you having to explain it. Now, there are some notations that you need to take, and that is to be honest with the person that you're doing your interview with so that they realize that you're part of the VA system. They don't need to know if you're in PTSD therapy or you're in Vivo therapy or whatever your issue is. They don't need to know that because it's against the HIPAA law. So you don't have to disclose whether or not, you took the shot or anything like that. You don't have to do all the things that most civilians have to go through if you have an arrest. And it involves drugs, alcohol, or PTSD. Or anything that has to do with the results of your military service, of being in combat. So the changes, like I said, it used to be a system that was airtight and it was anonymous, basically. If a dozen veterans come in on a Saturday night or whatever, and they get locked up and they're held in the drunk tank or whatever, the following morning they have to see the magistrate. At that moment, there's a decision to be made whether or not they go to veterans court or if they go to regular court, depending upon if they did anything really fucked up. Because if they did anything fucked up, then you have to really take in consideration. It's like, oh, that's not an excuse. Being drunk is not an excuse for getting a DUI and, getting into a car accident and killing another person. So you can see there's no, get out of jail free cards here, because that's what they assumed it would be from the word go. But that's not the point of it. See, a lot of people overlook the fault. No, they don't look at the fault. They don't look at the need. They look at the fault. And most people, by their own nature, know that veterans in general are great people. They're overly qualified to do most jobs, and they've been, through a lot of stuff. So when they get out of the military, they don't know how to be in the civilian world. So a lot of guys turn to booze, and a lot of guys turn to drugs. Because that's American lifestyle. It's very much an American thing, because other countries don't have these problems. Like, I would never dream of, a German, for example, or they wouldn't dream of ruining their life for alcohol. It doesn't make any sense to them. It's not logical. It's very much an American thing. Rehabs are American things. Court systems that put you in jail for being drunk in public are American things. And now that the court system has changed, I'm just going to tell you guys that I've only done this for humanitarian reasons. Like, literally the most altruistic thing I could possibly do in order for me to stay sober is to help other people. And that doesn't make any sense to people who all they think about is money and status. Okay? So now I've been sober for 22 years. Things have gotten progressively better for me. And a lot of those drunken, disorderly charges that I once had no longer exist. But the arrest records still exist in those countries. Now, it doesn't matter anymore because once you're sober and you stay sober, anything anybody says about you or to you, it doesn't matter anymore because you're not even that person anymore. Even your family is going to be your worst critic. They're going to be the most unsupportive. They're going to be meddling in you and trying to micromanage your life, like hiding booze from you and whatever. But if you do have a supportive family, be sure that they take you to the VA hospital to register. I don't know what the new policy is for transportation, but back when I was going through it and I was helping other guys go through the VA to get registered to get mental help, there were no bus passes or anything like that. I think they might have bus passes now that don't cost anything. Another thing too is that in the back of most VAs there's a homeless outreach center. And like I said, the one that's in South Florida, there's several, but the one that's the best is probably out of West Palm Beach or out of Miami. Because those two put an express lane for combat veterans who have mental problems, PTSD, who have gone untreated. And what veterans do is instead of going to the doctor and getting therapy, they drink until the alcohol no longer works. And then they end up in jail again and again and again. And it perpetuates a cycle that doesn't stop until that person is either dead, in an institution, or in jail. See, the end result of most alcoholism is three things. It's jails, institutions, and death. Now, I've been to jail more than I care to admit, but I'm not that guy anymore. And I don't want you to be that guy anymore. I want you to be on top. See, what blows people's minds is that, why do you help people for no money? See, that's the difference between me and you. You see, I don't focus on money. Money is a result of living a great life. It's not the focus or the purpose in life. It's just like women. If you focus only on women as your purpose in life, when they break your heart, you know what I'm saying? You have nothing to fall back on. It's the same thing. When you stop drinking, it's almost like dying. It's almost like experiencing a death of yourself. And that death of yourself is absolutely necessary because you don't want to be the same person that you used to be. Because even when people get sober in halfway houses and things like that and they don't work on themselves, they still have the same characteristics of bad people. And they still do the same repetitive stuff. For example, they say that even a horse thief that gets sober is still a horse thief until he decides to stop stealing horses. And you can apply that to any habit, any bad habits you possibly could have that you do when you drink. And then you stop doing those habits, and then people begin to trust you again, and you start to bring your life full circle back together again. And this has been the most beneficial thing for me to see is veterans recover. Now, you guys saw in the thumbnail, you know what I do, and you know what I'm about. Those young men right there have been through the shit, okay? And the last thing in the world I would want to have anything bad happen to them. You understand that? I would die before I let anything fucking bad happen to you down here in Mexico. And it's because of the stereotype, or just people trying to be rude, just talking about Mexico in general, and why would you go to Mexico? You don't have to come to Mexico. You can go to any country you want. But like I'm saying, is that veterans that don't have any guidance from other veterans are going to fall between the cracks. They're not going to know what to do. And the VA is not going to help you. They're going to help you with your medical stuff and do the referrals for you. But after that, what do? After you're done with rehabilitation, if you've been sober for a long time, then you need to be around your sober supports. You need to go to meetings. You need to hold meetings. You need to speak at meetings. It's not a time to be introverted. It's time to be extroverted. And then emphasize friendships, because if you can just not get into a relationship in that first year, you won't be as distracted as you would be if you're always just focused on your purpose in life. Your purpose in life really is connection with other people. You guys didn't know that. I'm telling you that the reason that we are alive, the reason that we have in this world is for one thing, and that's connections to other people. We're all connected. And when one of us is hurt, we're hurt. and one of us is healing, we're healing. That's why I say that the thing that kept me sober this long, 22 years, has been one thing, and that's just helping veterans with no profit motive. See, that just doesn't compute with some people. It doesn't. It doesn't make sense to people that all they think about is money. All they think about is money and stuff and possessions. That's all they think about. And for a person who lacks ambition, for somebody who recovers from this seemingly hopeless state of mind and body and does good for themselves, is going to receive a lot of criticism. And most of the people that are criticizing him in their own families. Then, this is the great part. See, once you decide to get sober and you stay sober for any period of time, is your life will get progressively better. It just seems to happen by default. And every single guy that I've worked with for the past 22 years who's recovered from, family problems and marriage problems and kid problems and possibly drug or alcohol problems, they have recovered on a way that the system is not going to allow you. Because rehabs are not interested in you getting better. They're interested in your money. I'm not interested in your money. I'm not interested in anything that has to do with money, because I think that the way the American system is designed is to cause envy between people, which is probably what happened yesterday, because someone was pretty envious of me and decided to ridicule me for, but it was ridiculous because it didn't apply to me. It's just, but aside from all that, retardedness, you are responsible for your own sobriety, meaning that no one is going to fucking help you. No one is out here to help you. Now you might say, yeah, I have AA friends and I have friends at the meeting and stuff like that. But when you go home at night, these people are not here to counsel you. You need to make that breakthrough. And the only connection that I've found that actually works is if you have a father in your life. If you have a father in your life and you grew up with a father, your chances are better than average than the one who does not. And the reason why I say that is because many, many times is that if you've had a father that abandoned you, you're going to compare your natural father here on earth to your father that's in heaven. And your father in heaven is your direct connection to everything, every single thing that I've told you about. And you might be thinking, well, I don't deserve this and I shouldn't be. You do. You're a human being and you're a child of God, which means that you have the keys to the kingdom. And if you want to be a loser and stay on the streets and love money and assume that, that money is the only thing that validates people, you're going to find out when you got tons of money that it doesn't matter anymore. None of that shit matters. No, what money does do for you, it gives you, transport. It gives you an opportunity to go places and to make other connections with people who also have resources and so on. But you'll find that when you get around people that have money, they don't care about it. And they get paid on dividend checks, which means every month their investments pay them. And depending upon how much you've invested in your early times, will eventually pay off. And if you get fortunate, or if you're one of these Bitcoin millionaires, man, my hat's off to you. That's awesome. Hope to maybe one day myself. Who knows? But my point of this is that you have the highest level of service you could possibly give to somebody above the military is helping another veteran. I mean, it's really simple. It's just like that, because sometimes these guys, they feel like they're an island that's not within rowing distance. And a lot of these guys commit them, they self-delete. My first year of sobriety, 39 guys from my unit killed themselves. 39 guys from my unit killed themselves. They didn't go to therapy. No, they got drunk. And how did they die? Overdoses, traffic accidents, murder. So there's so many bad things happened that it was almost like a horror film of just hearing about guys hanging themselves. And if you guys saw that story that I wrote about my daughter's mother when she left Germany, that shit hurt me a lot. And I drank a lot over that because of that. Because if you didn't know, I was an active alcoholic in the military. And so when my wife, God bless her heart, when she had the baby, I was drunk as shit in a bar. And I was on my way to the hospital driving drunk as fuck. And I literally got to the hospital just at the right time to see her being born. And that was the last time I saw her for the next 3 years. Now, what happened in the next 3 years is that I had to go to family court. I got fucked over in child support court. And then they said because I was an alcoholic that I didn't have visitation rights and I had to go to parenting classes for 12 weeks. And if I didn't go and I didn't comply, then I would lose my parental rights. This is what happens to veterans when they fall between the cracks. If they don't know these little details, they can lose their kids forever. And 40% of children, especially boys, lose touch with their fathers after 1 year. 1 year following a divorce, 40% of boys, children, lose touch with their fathers. Which is criminal to me, because court systems are designed to, they're supposed to help us, but they don't. And the system is broken. The good thing about this is that the Veterans Court does still exist, and if you're a veteran, you should get involved. And all you got to do is just type up, state of whatever, Veterans Court, and see if there's a possibility that they can have you on as a mentor. If you really want to get to the deep details of the changes of the policy, if you look at the description of this video right here, you'll see exactly what I mean. I don't want you guys to fall between the cracks. I want you to get to where you're going. See, that's one thing that people are confused about. See, I'm here because I want to be here. And people who come here are people who know me, who want to come here. Because they know that they see how we live, they see the training videos, they see what we do. Maybe they're interested in that, maybe not. And it doesn't matter to me if you do or if you don't. That's the thing that really blows my mind. Blows my mind. It's a little infuriating, actually, that someone will come across and, just disrespect veterans like that. Because it's disrespectful. And you don't minimize another man's military career. You don't minimize a man's military career or his experience. How dare you? And then when you come back and they're all busted up and you want to criticize them, how dare you? And the worst part of it is that most of the criticism comes from their family members. That they have this image of this person, this child that went off to the military, so their memory is frozen in time what they're like. When they come back, they create a new memory. And that memory is an insane drunk, for example, or a drug addict, or whatever your problem was. They're going to have that memory of you for as long as you live, unless you decide at one point that I don't want to be part of the system. I don't want to be characterized by the way I used to be. I don't want to be judged by the content of my prior character. So instead, I would prefer that if a veteran is aware that there is a veterans court, if they do get their ass in a sling, they're gonna need to go to veterans court and not to the municipality court. You avoid an arrest record, so that nothing is there in the system that says that you've been arrested. Because if you go to apply for a federal job after you've been sober a while, they're gonna look at that police record and be like, oh no, oh, you just want to be a street sweeper for the city? I'm sorry, you can't do that because you have XYZ on your record. Now, what I said before is that my program here is for nonviolent offenders. Nonviolent offenders. And it doesn't have, you don't have to be a criminal or anything. You don't have to be in jail or anything like that to go become a firefighter. It's your decision on what you want to do. The only reason why Mexico works good for veterans who have gotten their asses in trouble is that if a veteran has gotten DUI, the Veterans Court kicks them out because they are not complicit. They don't do what they're supposed to do. They don't talk to their mentors. They don't go to AA meetings. They don't give a fuck. They're just happy to get out of jail free card, basically, without any probation. But they do that, and they're system writers, and fuck them. Those are people who are not serious about life. Now, how is this connected to here down south? Okay, well, Colombia, Parque RV, Mexico City. Mexico City's a good one. Oaxaca's a good one. Puebla's a good one. Querétaro's a good one. San Juan, no. Well, north, no good. South, good. North, cartel. South, no cartel. Depends on where you go. Beach, very expensive to live. They don't want foreigners working in Cancun. They don't want foreigners or gringos being around people in Cancun. They don't want us around tourists. So anytime somebody is selected for the fire service and they go through the academy. Oh, by the way, one more thing before I jump out is that someone had a question about no money. Did you guys know that volunteer firefighters don't get paid? That's why the word volunteer is the word volunteer means you don't get paid to do this. Because the first year as a probie, you don't get paid anyway. You're fully self-supporting through your own contributions. Now, last night the conversation was, what do you mean you don't get money? You've never done an internship? Don't you know that the fire service doesn't pay you? Fucking retards. You're doing this for your own good. You're doing it for your own mental health. There is a connection between firefighting and ex-military service. So a man who feels unfulfilled with his life in the States can go to the fire academy, and you don't have to go to this fire academy. This is the fire science academy. This is advanced 4-year degree. The other hand, the 1 year, the prerequisite to get into that over there is you need to be in shape over here. So you need to be in shape 3 months before you can even sign up. So anyway, I hope that cleared things up because there have been some big changes to the VA and it has to do with the government. Now the government's involved. It's not the way it used to be. Not that it's a bad thing, but it is a better alternative to going to county jail and being on probation because that doesn't help anybody. All it is just this Rockefeller system of punishment, control, and it all comes down to that cycle of alcoholism and mental illness. Do you have any questions? Do me a favor. Hit me up in the comments. If you don't know what Veterans Courts is, if you are a homeless veteran and you need to be somewhere, look for any type of veterans halfway house. You can go to the VA hospital to give you a referral, okay? You don't have to pay for your housing when you first arrive. What they want you to do is so you integrate back into society is that you recover for a month. By the second phase, which is in the second month, by then you're physically recovered because a lot of you guys are skinny as shit when you arrive. Shot out, messes of men. But once you're okay and your brain recovers, then life gets better. Then you can pursue a job if you wish. You need to go to the VA to get your benefits. If you're a combat veteran that has some medical issues and stuff like that and it's service related, service connected, go for it. Okay, that's what it's there for. There's nothing to be ashamed of going to the VA hospital and saying, hey, I need help. Because that was the only place I had to go. I don't have family in the United States. They're dead. I had nobody to return to. They're dead. And the family that I did have treated me like fucking dog shit. Well, they had every reason to because, hey, what do you expect? When an alcoholic drinks and goes in your house and does dumb shit, people don't want to be around you. But that's the stigmatism and the memory that they have frozen in their mind about you. Okay? So that is why you need to be around other veterans. You need to be involved in service above yourself. And be more altruistic. All right? There's no reason to suffer in silence. Like I said, if that's what interests you, you have no obligation. Like I said, I'm just giving you guys the same information that 40 or 50 other YouTubers do to help direct veterans into a place they want to go. I just happen to have a fire academy down here. And I only invite people that I actually know and have been around because I've had that same old fuck up mistake where I just invited just any old person down here. And then I get overrun with bums that just want to sleep in the fucking house for free. So that's a bad thing. What I do recommend is that veterans that are disabled or whatever, when you want to get some therapy, come to Mexico or go to Colombia or go to Nicaragua or go to Panama. There are programs there, just like this one. Like I said, you're not obligated to go here. You don't have to come here. I can give you a referral. You can go to any other place. Okay? It doesn't cost anything to go to the fire academy, but it does cost you to live on the economy by yourself. A lot of these fire academies, they'll allow you to sleep in the dormitory, and that'll be your home for the following year, because that's what the fire academy is. You basically are in the military again. Only difference is you're getting in shape. The first thing you do, and the first thing in the morning that we do as a team, is at 10 a.m. every single day we work out. We work out at the park right here behind the house. And all of the fellas that are here, all these guys, they were all alcoholics at one point. Every single one of them, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, all of them had the same problem when they got back to the States after the military, and they had nowhere to go. Now, I made a mistake of filling this place up and having like bad apples and stuff like that. There's always bad apples. There's always one eventually. And there's lots of stories about it, but you as a veteran, look, 18 to 25, recover from alcoholism. Get on with your life. Go to AA. Get a relationship with God. I know it hurts your fucking ears to hear that shit. Oh, you talking about God and cussing at the same time? Look, I'm not your pastor. But what I am is an example of what you could become. And that's why I try to encourage guys. Guys are looking at me like, why are you flexing? I can do every fucking thing I want because I don't answer to a lot of people. I don't answer to them. I don't take orders from people that just want to criticize me. You know what I'm saying? It's ignorant. That's the way I look at it. It's just ignorant. Why in the fuck would you fuck with veterans of all people? It makes no sense. These are the people that went to war to defend your right to criticize them. We went to war to defend the Constitution. In our minds, we're not thinking about, oil barons and all that stuff. We're not thinking about what they did to us because we were innocent. But once the military has spit you out and you're a shattered mess of a man, you're going to need some recovery. So if you don't mind, you can read right there in the description all the changes that occurred. No, excuse me. This is just a new policy. The new policy is pretty simple. They involve a lot of this new political correctness stuff too. Be on your toes. If you go to the hospital at the VA, you have to be very, very careful about what you say in public. My mistake, oh boy, I had a very attractive nurse, and every time I would end up at the hospital, I'm like half in the bag, and I remember her name was Teddy. And I was like, hey, Teddy, how you doing? And I kept showing to the VA drunk and all this stuff. And they're like, you need to stop drinking or you're going to keep getting in trouble. And then one day I started to she goes, you're fresh. Out of nowhere, a simp enforcer comes around the fucking corner and says, if you do not behave yourself, we are going to recommend you be removed from the VA system. And I'm like, wow, now imagine 22 years later, with the political correctness environment, that if you say the wrong thing around the VA, they could kick you out of that for fucking just saying that men are stronger than women. Follow what I'm saying? You don't have to fall into that shit. So like I said, if you have any questions about the Veterans Court, I already put a link I put something in the description that will get you on your way. But for the most part, if you're a returning veteran and you need some treatment, remember something. If you have a DD-214, honorable discharge, walk right into the VA. They will help you. Okay? You don't need my help if you have a VA nearby. If you're recovered for several years and you've gotten your life together and you just want to come down to Mexico just to check it out, you can do that. You don't have to stay here. You can stay in a hotel. You can do anything you want. So anyway, I just wanted to clarify that, since people were confused about that yesterday, exactly what it is that we do here. So what is it we do here? I don't want to get too much into that, but we do 3D printing for prosthetic hands for people who have lost their fingers. You saw that in the video. We do drone training with LiDAR, which you saw that on the video, also heat signatures and stuff like that. Laboratory experiments with LP gas. You saw that on the video. That was done with Captain Resendiz, who passed away this year, sadly. And he's in that video. You can work with, now it's Captain Ignacio, doing CPR and first aid buddy care training for first responders and things like that. And doctors and dentists. Doctors and dentists are going to these classes now. So I don't really, I do the physical education in the morning. That's exercise. That's all it is. It's just training with weights. And then in the afternoon, when our instructor Edson teaches self-defense, and then we have our adult class at 10 a.m. and then we have our kids class, kids brigade at 4 a.m. The new cycle of the school is not until November, so if you're planning on coming down to the Fire Academy in November, remember that you got to go to our website, which is bomberossf.org, and you sign up there. Or you go to our Facebook or Instagram, something like that. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll give you some directions. If you come here, you can come here. If you don't like Mexico, you can go wherever the hell you want, okay? It's just that I'm good at this, okay? I've been able to not just help a lot of veterans, but I've been able to help myself, okay? And mentally, I'm doing great because I have no profit motive. Yeah, it sounds too good to be true because you lack ambition. And if you had a good life, you'd know what an ambitious life looks like. You get things when you have an ambitious life. But if you're a lazy ass system writer, which from the sound of it, a lot of you guys are, and you don't want to work, and you don't want to do something, and you don't want to recover, and you don't want to get better, then the results are going to be exactly the same. Every single time. Time and time and time and time again. It is always ends up the same way. Jails, institutions, and death. And if that helps you today, I want you to know something, that we do recover. I don't give a fuck what drug it is that you got a problem with. I don't care how much booze you drink. There are people that die from this every single day. And you might think this is a joke and it's not serious, but take this seriously. Because if you drink and you do drugs or anything like that, your brain is getting slowed down. Do you really want to live slow after this great career you just had in the military, and then you're going to get out and you're going to slow yourself down? A lot of people do. A lot of people drink themselves to death. And I was one of those guys that wanted to. But like I said, I have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. Hopeless. Penniless. Homeless. Suicidal. Homicidal. That's where I was. And if you were like me, you would get your ass into fucking AA right away. Put down the drink. Step into a church. Go with God. Because what do you think alcohol is? Alcohol is a spirit. It's a spirit. And you, look at this. It's beautiful. And you voluntarily drink it because you don't fucking know any better. You don't know it's poison. Did you guys, I just found this out, you guys. I just found this out. And just so you guys know that these alcoholic beverages didn't exist when I had stopped drinking. So all this stuff is new to me. Like, what is it? Cotton candy flavored fucking booze or whatever. Where was all that cool shit when I was out here drinking? They didn't even have flavored Grey Goose back when I stopped drinking. They stopped producing this one beer. It's called Bud Dry when I got sober. That's how long I've been sober, guys. Since I was 28 years old. 28. I was definitely one foot in the grave and another on a fucking banana peel. Because they say that I got to AA the day before I died. So where are you at? Where are you at? You want to jump on this journey? You go for it. But my motivation is nothing much but to put you in the right direction. Right? If that helps you, great. How it's going to benefit me, you wonder. If you don't want money, well, what are you doing all this stuff for? So I stay sober. The longer I stay sober, the better I do. And that blows people's minds. It's almost too hard to conceptualize why you would do something for one thing. And most of you guys do your shit for money because you're in love with money and you worship money, and that's why the devil has you. And that's why you're limited in every single area of your life. And you get envious of me because of where I live. Big fucking deal. Anybody can buy a ruin. Okay? It's not special. Anybody can buy this shit. It's just stuff. It's not important. And the last thing is this, is that yes, the pilot training school is at Utah. So if you're interested in becoming a pilot, you go to our website. There's a link for the Utah State, I guess UTT or whatever the hell it is, that's offering veterans tuition assistance for your pilot's license, which is a first. That's awesome. I don't remember how many weeks the school is, but once you fly up there or go there or wherever it is that you decide to do, you're going to stay with other veterans and you're going to go to class together like friends, like buddies from the military going to fucking tech school or AIT every day until you get your pilot's license and you can get on with your life. Isn't that fucking crazy that somebody like myself, who was a homeless veteran one time, is directing people to get sober, to get right with God, and to move on with their life? I mean, if you're at this point now where you're 40 years old and you're still acting like a fucking teenager and getting drunk and doing drugs and not getting anywhere in life, it's because you lack ambition. If you lack ambition to get sober, you have lack ambition to live. And that's the mentality that a lot of people have. They feel like they're trapped in this cycle and they can't get out. So if you have any questions, like I said, if it has to do with the Veterans Court. Oh, by the way, if you wanted to see Roy Foster get his award from CNN for CNN's Hero of the Year, all you need to do is go on YouTube and type in Roy Foster, CNN Hero of the Year. And this is, like I said, Roy Foster, veterans. He was my mentor, and now I'm your mentor. How much did Roy charge me to mentor me? $0. And yet, look at him now. He's a millionaire because of his work. And CNN gave him a $3 million donation to his charity. And that what happened? He was able to buy all the land, all the buildings, and invite more and more and more veterans to come and stay with him. Now, if you guys are going to just be jerks and say there's something nefarious about this, there's something wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with what we're doing down here. And like I said, I would die before I let any fucking thing bad happen to you. Anyway, I'm going to say that again. I would die before I let anything bad ever happen to you. Ever. Right? You're safer with me than any other person in this whole damn country. Right? But that's okay. The critics are going to criticize because they don't know any better. That's called ignorance. Anyway, I'm the Professor. I hope you enjoyed this. Do me a favor and like and subscribe this. We just hit our 500th subscription. Thank you, Jesus. We're halfway there. Halfway to the cake, as they say in AA. Hey, I'm the Professor, and I'm out. Appreciate you.